Michaela, and today I'm going to be talking about my OCD. So for those of you who don't know what OCD is obsession compulsive disorder. But before I get started, please subscribe, turn on the notifications, and like this video. So everyone's story is different. For those of you who have OCD, I'm sure that you could share a much different story than mine. It's really important to notice that OCD is not just the stigma. Oh, I have a preference of my room being clean, or I really like to organize. It's much different. And to put it in more simpler terms, OCD is when you obsess over a certain thought, or maybe you have a ritual that you like to do. But I feel like it's really important to notice that there are several different types of OCD. For me, as young as I can remember, I've kind of obsessed over death, as well as messing up. Like, I felt like if I messed up on something, you know, being 4 years old, say if I didn't do a ritual right, so maybe I was like stepping on a crack, I actually thought I would die. Or there were just certain situations, like as a kid, where these thoughts as a child could have been normal, but mine were very extreme. Like thinking if something happened, if something went wrong, that I kind of had like this obsession with death. So fast forward years later, I began to obsess with germs. And by the way, I feel like as I got older, I realized that a lot of these obsessions happened when I'd be like the most stressed, which is why I feel like they probably developed stronger when I had like traumatic experiences as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. So you know, there's times where I feel like the OCD went away and I'm cured, I'm fixed. But then there's other times where I feel like it's worse than ever and I'm so confused that I'm having these thoughts. So the biggest problem I have with my OCD is my germophobia. And when I say germophobia, I mean I wash my hands until it feels right. And being somebody with a nursing degree, I obviously know that if I wash my hands for a certain amount of time, that at least 99.9% of the germs will be gone. But there's other times too where I tend to wash my hands until it simply feels right. So logically that doesn't make sense, but to me it does. And it's really hard sometimes because I literally wash my hands until they're raw. If you guys could see it, I don't know if you can, let me. As you could see, this is what my hands look like right now. They have little cuts and sores on them, and it does not feel great. But I promise you, after this video, if I do not try to control myself, I will wash my hands at least, I want to say 20 more times today. It's kind of bad. So to be honest, in a day, I probably wash my hands about 50 times. And ironically, regardless of how many cuts or sores I have on my hands, it's very therapeutic. It's something that if I don't wash my hands after I feel like I touched something dirty or I simply just don't feel right, then I could ruin my whole day if I don't wash my hands, basically. So that might sound crazy to some of you who don't have OCD or like you don't really understand it. But if you are around people with the same problem as me, hopefully you could be more understanding, because it's not just like this stigma of, oh my gosh, I think that's so dirty. I have OCD because I like to be clean or I like to be organized. So another obsession that I have is kind of with my relationships. I feel like I've always been really dependent on other people, and I realized a lot of the time it was subconsciously. I got into very toxic relationships or even had very toxic friendships because although I felt like I was nothing without them, they also were very narcissistic and sociopathic people that I drew myself to, that liked to feed off of the fact that I was very codependent. So that's another thing where I felt like I was nothing without them, that I couldn't really make any choices by myself, that I always mess up when I'm given an option to be a leader or just stuff like that. And when I say that it was an obsession, and it still is, there's still times where I catch myself saying sorry like a billion times before I realize that I have nothing to be sorry for. And that's as an adult, by the way. So I've definitely come a long way, but I feel like a way that I try to fight a lot of my compulsions is just taking a moment to think about what I'm saying or what I'm doing or my thought process, because I know what's not logical, illogical, but there's times where sometimes my anxiety and OCD just simply takes over. Like today, I probably washed my hands at least, I want to say 75 times, and today I definitely didn't control myself. So there are times where I don't, and that's something I definitely need to work on, which is why I'm making this video, because maybe there's other people like me who they feel like they're a weirdo. They feel like they are socially awkward, like they can't really connect with other people. So just know you're not alone. Even if we don't have the same type of OCD or even mental illness, just know that like you're not strange, you're not weird. And I know on a daily basis people probably call me a weirdo if they catch on to like what I'm doing. I don't really like tell everybody, hey, I'm gonna go wash my hands, but sometimes I'll disappear, or I don't really like touching people. So yeah, I'm trying to normalize it, because at the end of the day, mental illness is something that many people have, but a lot of people are ashamed of. And for a long time, I feel like I've been ashamed of my OCD. There's times when I was even younger where I went to get attention from doctors, and they said I had OCD. They said I had a bunch of other different things, but I didn't want to take the medication. And I'm currently not taking my medication for my anxiety and my depression, because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. It's kind of difficult because some of the medications are not recommended if you want to start a family, and I'm at a point in my life where I really wanted to start a family, but at the same time I know that my anxiety and my compulsive behavior have been getting worse. So I thought I would share that with you guys. I love you guys so much, and I really appreciate those of you who have even opened up with me and shared your stories. I feel like the first thing that I should do is work on my stress level, because I realize my OCD is the worst when I'm really stressed out. And it becomes so bad that I'm not gonna lie to you, there's times where I've even had my fiance wash his hands a bunch of times because of my own obsessive behavior. And I feel like it does take a toll in some of my relationships. I feel like my parents have known me for my whole life, so they understand me and they're able to work with it. But it's really hard for other people. So that's definitely an adjustment with people I hold close to me. But I'm willing to try my hardest to get better, and I think that's why I'm also making this video, because I realize that I'm not alone. So for those of you who do have OCD too, hopefully I could read some of your stories in the comments, or if you want to DM me, because it's definitely something that some people like me are very touchy about. Like, my hands are so gross. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, they're super wrinkly. Like, my right hand is more raw than my left. But yeah, I have like these little cuts all around. My hands bleed. My hands were bleeding earlier, and I still lather up my hands with lotion. But unfortunately, after I lather them, I'm most likely gonna wash my hands like a minute later. So that's my story. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear yours. And remember, regardless of anything anybody says about you, you're a boss. Bye.
Tell me how I can be such a foolish girl. I should have seen all the signs you left with her. And suddenly I can't speak, so